Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. We have a special guest here, Kevin Finlon. He is the newest member of the Bloom Financial and the Retire As You Desire family. Kevin, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be joining Bloom Financial. Excited about the future.
So tell us, who is Kevin Finlon? Who are you? Why do you love doing the financial services work? Because it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to do the things that we do. So who are you? Let's start there.
So all started on a cold evening. I was kidding. Nothing like that. Kevin Finlon, I've been in the business for about 10 years. I started namely because I had been let go from another job. I was 24 years old at the time and did a lot of this.
Yeah.
Going back to my earliest days, I was always a very social person, Bill. You probably have seen that in the 10 years we've been talking. At the time, I'd come out of school, didn't really have any direction in life. My parents had a financial advisor, and he told my dad, he said, "Hey, Tim, I think your son would be a great financial advisor." To which my dad replied, "Oh, no, he's bad at math." Tom said to my dad, I said, no, the math can be taught. It's really about a relationship, and it's meeting people. And he's like, your son's got it. You just either have it or you don't have it. Going back to my earliest days, I've always enjoyed conversing with people, meeting with people, building relationships. I have a natural curiosity. You definitely have to have that in this line of work. So back when I was 24 years old, Tom sat me down and talked to me and said, hey, you need to go to work for a big company and build, make your bones.
Yeah.
But you'll get in the business. You'll have the advantage that most people don't have, which is me, and I off to work. And what did I do to start? A lot more of this. And I was really unsuccessful for the first 2 years until I think right around the time you and I kind of connected.
True. Yeah.
So been doing it for 10 years. I've built a wonderful book of business with a bunch of great clients. I've built some phenomenal relationships that have turned into really good friendships outside of work. Aside from that, I have a wonderful wife named Natalie, a beautiful little girl named Keely. Hopefully maybe one or two more in the future, but we'll take that a day at a time. Live in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and I'm happy to see where the adventure takes us with Bloom Financial today.
Yeah.
You okay there?
It's perfect. So perfect. So you found a mentor at an early age. I think the mentorship is probably one of the most prevalent things that any young business owner, any young entrepreneur, or anyone who wants to start something or do something with their lives and themselves, so critical. When I started at Prudential, I was 22, going into 23, there were guys and gals in the office who had been there for 30, 40 plus years. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world have these folks been here for 30 plus 40 years of their lives? And the whole entire financial industry has changed. It's changed
Night and
day in the past, I would say 10 years or so, probably even when you started, because things are much more about the industry. And Tom, your mentor, how much did he teach you about, just don't have your blinders on and use one company. You need to look at an actual customized approach for your clients. Like, how early on was that instilled into your brain?
Day one. Day one. And truth be told, that man has patience. Like, I don't know how, because I did a lot of this to start. And as you're well aware, you don't get a whole lot early on in the business just sitting around. You have to make things happen. I think it's interesting, and I agree with you, how the business has changed from it's changed its night and day from when I started just 10 years ago. At the same time, there's some things that have never changed, right? Being proactive, reaching out to clients. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Still something that I struggle with to this day, because I love to talk to people. But listen,
you love people.
Listen more than you talk. Bill, Tom taught me that from day one. He said, you need to listen more and you need to ask questions and always be taking it to the next level, deeper. And that's still something that I work on to this day. I know I could be better at it. Asking why. Why is this important to you? What makes you tick? At the end of the day, the products that we use, like you said, they're the same across all companies. Products are good. Some might be a little bit better. But really, it's about how it works with the client and in the client's framework. And in order to make sure you have the right product for the client, you have to best understand what makes them tick. And you and I, we tick differently. It's just a fact of nature. It's not good or bad, just is what it is.
Yep, that's so true. That customized approach is really what we pride ourselves on at Bloom Financial. That's what the Retire As You Desire lifestyle is all about. It's like, what do you want to see happen? What's most important to you financially? I think that's one of the best questions you could ask someone. Even when you go out to dinner or vacation with friends, like ask someone that question. See what they say. I think it triggers a new response in their brain. It kind of gets things working in a different way. I've literally asked people that question and they won't stop talking for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I've had over an hour before because the couple, they're going back and forth. That's gold right there because you're really creating your future. And your money's used to create that future, to go out and do the things. And when you met Tom, I think this is such a prevalent thing. How much confidence did he give you unknowingly at the time, saying, this kid's got it? Because this happened to me. I'll talk about this in a minute, but this kid's 24. He's got it. How did that give you confidence to go out and create your own business?
I mentioned earlier, when I came into the business, I had been let go from a position.
Yeah.
I was 24 years old. Truth be told, it was actually the second position. When I got out of college, I did what most 22-year-olds do. Now, understand my path to the business is to best understand this story. I was 22 years old, and I did what most dumb college grads that didn't already have a job lined up did. I circled the city of Chicago and said, I got to work down here. I don't really care what I do. I just got to work downtown. That's where everything's at.
Wow.
So I went downtown, and I got a job, and it was inside sales job. It was boring. There was no relationship. It was cold calling. After 11 months, they let me go. That was tough, Bill. I'd never been let go from a job before. Undeterred, I said, hey, find a new job. And I did. I found another job. They let me go after 30 days. Wasn't the right fit. And it stuck with me.
Wow.
The owner of the company made a statement that, don't be afraid to rip off the Band-Aid. He's like, one of my first hires was the wrong hire, and I was too afraid. I was forcing it to work, and it wasn't right. Apparently, I wasn't the right hire there, and that I took it personally. When I came into this business, I didn't have a lot of confidence. But Tom just said, hey, you hadn't found your right thing yet.
Yeah.
That being said, be confident, go out, be you. And honestly, when I stopped worrying about all of these outside factors that really don't have any in play, just because you were let go from a job doesn't determine your success of your future. You determine the success of your future, your next actions. It was when I stopped caring that I became successful.
Wow.
And why did I use those words? That's something Tom told me. He always said, Kevin, when I stopped caring is when I became successful because I wasn't worried about the outside impact of other people's thoughts and feelings. It's just be you. Go out there, be the best advisor you can be, care about people, get to know them on more than a superficial level. There's one thing I want to say that you mentioned. When I first started dating my wife, because I've been doing this longer than I know my wife, sat her down for dinner, and I said to her, I said, so where do you see yourself at 30? Looked at me. It's an interview? I'm like, that's kind of what dating is. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, what do you want out of this? Like, what's your end game? And I had my own reasons for asking it. I was like, she said, well, I think I'd like to own a house, maybe some children. And I had dated a woman that didn't want children. And I did. I thought, hey, why am I not asking these questions?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with our line of work. What do you see? To get the comment, where do you see yourself at retirement? What does retirement look like to you? Tell me about that. Why is that important? Get people talking. Let's get to peel back an onion.
Yeah.
Let's get to those core layers.
It's amazing. Those things really create the plan.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
100%.
Because I think over time, even after, I think the first 2 or 3 years of me being in the business, when I started in 2008, the whole world was on fire financially. And then by asking great questions, like you just said, that's what some of the mentors in the office taught me. Like, just ask questions and don't talk unless they ask you questions, like shut up and listen kind of thing. Just be present. You almost have to let go of the outcome and just not have an expectation. I think that's true for all things in life. If you want to get a watch or you want to buy a certain kind of house or a certain kind of relationship, you can manifest those things, right? But you have to let go of the outcome. That's a big part of it. But when you're asking those great questions, the plan is actually unfolding in and of itself.
It's amazing. There's times I'll sit down with people like, how am I this person's got all this money and they're super successful. What does a 34-year-old know? And then you start talking like, oh, I could offer this. I bet they haven't thought of it. Let the plan lead you rather than you. Like, I'm not I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to push anything on you. I'm like,
Right.
I'm here to help you achieve your goals.
Yep.
That's simple. Now, what are those goals? You may not know. Let's define them. Let's figure out. And they're going to evolve. Tell every client, financial planning is fluid. It is going to change a million times over. You're getting from point A to Z. It's non-linear.
Oh yeah, it's not linear. It's
No.
going to take time. It's just going to take time. So we've got about 30 seconds. What you're doing right now, you're starting on a new venture. What are you most excited about?
Freedom.
Freedom, yeah. That's a good thing.
I've been with a company and I have no regrets. It was a phenomenal place to start my career.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, I've built some great relationships. I am excited to take those relationships to the next level, both in my level of service and cultivating and take him to that deeper level. What's the most precious commodity we have?
Time.
Exactly. I think you told me that.
Yeah.
Well, people have said that, but I know you say it all the time. And I want to have more time to spend with my wife, my daughter, enjoying nature, and then most importantly with my clients, right? So that's probably what I'm most excited about as we go down this path.
Amazing. Well, stay tuned. The next segment, we're going to go deeper into Kevin's past, why he's joining Bloom Financial, and what's most important to him. Thank you for watching the show.
Nobody can guarantee returns, right? It's just not possible,
Correct.
right? We don't live in that world. If I figured out, trust me, I'd be the first one in line. What we can do is control our inputs. That was something I had mentioned. Tom can't control the outcomes. All you can control is your inputs. And our inputs are having an open dialogue, open communication, and talking about what are we working on and why are we working on it.
Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. We have our newest member, the Bloom Financial family, Kevin Finlon, here with us today. And our team's been growing. We've had some incredible, great new hires. Our whole goal is to help people retire as they desire, like what's most important to them. And we create that plan, that service, really hold their hand through the whole entire process. I just love giving people that Ritz-Carlton experience with their money. That's what you should be getting. That's why you're paying someone to help you with your money. And Kevin's joining us. He has an incredible background. He's been in the financial services industry over 10 years. And now he's coming over to a place where you have so much flexibility to help plan for your clients. What are some of the most rewarding aspects for you as a financial advisor, as someone who plans someone's financial futures? What makes you tick?
So recently, 4 weeks ago, on a Wednesday, I was having a particularly challenging day with just life and then service, right in my back end. A lot of the minutia, for lack of a better word. And on the same day, I got an email from one of my favorite clients. And I sent him an email. He responded. I usually bullet point it, and then he responds in red or vice versa.
Nice.
At the very end, he just said, as always, my wife and I feel we're in such capable hands, and we trust you so much with our finances. We don't know what we would do without you. Talked to that client just a day or two ago, and I told him, I said, that email that you sent me about a month ago, I was having a particularly challenging day. I'm like, that completely turned my mood around. For someone to reach out and say how confident they are with the level of service and the advice and everything I've done for them over our 7-year relationship, the feeling you get on that, there's no feeling like that in the world other than maybe the birth of my child, right?
Yeah.
Which that's the levels we're talking at, right? Same day, later in the day, I got a phone call from a client. She was in the process of buying a house after I had encouraged her to be considered. She wanted to do all these renovations. She said she couldn't move because she was getting into retirement. And I simply said to her, why? Why can't you move? Well, I'm retiring. Is there a book out there that says I'm retiring? I can't buy a house?
Yeah.
It's like, so what you're saying is all the retirees are just stuck wherever they are when they hit 65. Like, listen, if you want to stay in your home, stay in your home. But don't close off your mentality to looking for a new home, especially when the new features. You're going to spend the money either way. I mean, have you done a kitchen remodel? They're not fun. I've lived through one.
They take a lot of time.
You got to live through the dust and the money. It's like, so just leave all your options on the table. Well, she chose to move. And same day as that first email, she calls me and says, hey, I couldn't do it without you.
Wow.
2 clients, same day, didn't know each other. They live completely opposite ends of my geographical territory, if you will. Both of them reached out to me to tell them, hey, I couldn't do this without you. To have that kind of influence on someone's life, yes, it's nice to make money, right? I don't think anybody would say it's not. That being said, when somebody trusts you that much, it really makes you feel like you're doing what you're put on this earth to do.
Yeah, that's a sign from the universe, actually. Like 2 people lifting you up like that when you're having a crappy day, or things are difficult.
Try not to get religious, but I'm faith-based.
Yeah.
He works in mysterious ways, and I totally believe that.
Oh, yeah, there's energy. I mean,
there is an energy.
Having the right clients, the right people, I mean, we are very aware of that. I mean, being in the business for a decade and a half now, having great relationships and having some not so great relationships where you have to part ways. Like sometimes it's mutually, sometimes it's one-sided, but you can't please everyone. You cannot please everyone. Who is your ideal client? Like, think about this for a second. Who do you love working with the most?
I already have a perfect answer to this because I tell every client this. I don't care if you have 2 nickels or $1 million. And I have clients that have both.
Right.
What matters to me is the relationship, and is do we have an open dialogue as to why we're working on things. And I'll bring you ideas. Doesn't mean you have to take them. You can ask questions. We could talk about it. I was like, but when I keep bringing ideas and just say no, and there's no methodology, there's no reason, or vice versa. When I ask you questions and you're unwilling to share and you're just worried about returns, nobody can guarantee returns, right? It's just not possible, right? We don't live in that world. If I figured out, trust me, I'd be the first one in line. What we can do is control our inputs. That was something I had mentioned. Tom can't control the outcomes. All you can control is your inputs. And our inputs are having an open dialogue, open communication, and talking about what are we working on and why are we working on it. I'll end with, I talked to one of my favorite clients and I had said to him, I said, you're my ideal relationship. You know why? You don't spring things upon me last minute. You say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I don't need an answer today, but I just want to bounce the idea off you. Can I do this? If I did it, what would be the best idea? And it gives me time to think about it. If I need to make calls, do some research, I can do that because we're human. We don't have I'm not an encyclopedia, but I do know where to go get the answers. And if I don't, I'll find out. And we can talk about it. I love that client. That's the client that I want to work with.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's people who are open to ideas.
100%.
People who want to give you time. It's not like yesterday kind of thing.
Yep.
That's how the world operates. But you need to have the time to do the research and actually I don't want to say make sure, but you want to do the due diligence to give them like the correct answer in your mind or from your advice standpoint.
Absolutely. 100%. You hit the nail on the head. This is a relationship. This isn't a one way. We talked about in our previous session, the industry's changing. This isn't a one size fits all, right? We want to make sure we're tailoring everything around the clients. We have to have open dialogue. We have to be open to new ideas. You have to give me time to research. The world is a big place. We need to have time to get out there and say, hey, what's the right thing? And let's review different options. So
absolutely. Well, going back to the story, when I was 24 at the time, a gentleman by the name of Herman Miller, who was in our old office, know him.
I remember Herman, yeah.
One of the most incredible gentlemen who I've met in the financial services industry. He was one of the guys who has been doing it for 40 years. Plus, he's still doing it, and he's in his 80s. Like, think about that. From a retirement standpoint, this is what he loves doing, so he doesn't quit. But he's been a mentor for, hundreds, maybe thousands of people through his efforts at NAFA and other organizations. But he pulled me into his private office. He said, Bill, come here. I was walking by. I was going back to my cubicle at the time, being 24. He said to me, you're a freak. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about? I'm a freak. He said, Bill, you're not going to be here in 5 years. And I'm thinking to myself, what is this guy saying to me? Like, we work for a company. They want us to use their products. And that's eventually why I left, is to have access to more opportunities to really do excellent planning for our clients. But when he said that to me, Bill, you're a freak. And we still laugh about this to this day. So I'll talk to him. It was like, you're not going to be here in 5 years, and you need to learn about the industry. And that's exactly what you're doing, Kevin. I see a lot of what I've done with what you're doing now. You're branching out from an industry perspective, you have incredible options where you're at right now, but there's just so much more out there. And how excited are you to go back to your clients and work with your people to offer them hopefully even better planning?
I mean, that's it in a nutshell. I tell my clients, I want to live in a world where there is no boundaries.
No restrictions.
There's no restrictions. You know, if you want to do something, let's go do it, right? Like I had mentioned in a previous session, you know, where does the book say this? Right? Like, there is no, we write the book, right?
Totally.
I know Herman Millen. I didn't know him as well as you did because he had really got to the bare bones, and he did retire while I was with the firm. But to hear you say that, I was like, oh yeah, that's him. I remember him. He had a way of just saying things to you that stuck with you. And I remember my own Herman Miller story where he mentioned, he's like, everyone in this office is doing it wrong. It shouldn't be, hey, this is what we think clients will buy. Right. It should be, what's right for the client? What do you need?
Right.
And when he said that to me, I remember thinking to my mentor.
How old were you?
Oh, 25, 24.
Or like 1 year.
Yeah, 1 or 2 years in the business. Again, doing a lot of this. So I was still figuring it out. And I thought about what Tom Journey, my mentor, had said. He's always like, you know, if you walk into someone's house and say, you need $1 million, oh, you're crazy. You have to make them understand why this is important, right? And it starts first with understanding the client and their needs, and then breaking it down in layman's terms. And Herman said the same thing, and it sounds like Herman was your Tom, right?
Right.
Having
one of them,
those
for sure.
influential people in your life, especially early on, is huge. And I'd like to say we're paying them homage. You know, we're sitting here recording, right?
Absolutely.
They didn't have this. The technology didn't exist in the 80s and 90s. I suppose it did, but it wasn't nearly as practical as it today.
Correct.
We're carrying those lessons with us for our clients and for other clients out there that maybe don't work with us, but other advisors, people that are out there. I think we're paying them homage, and we're really building it for the next generation. I think that's really important. That's what's most exciting.
Oh yeah, amen. That's a beautiful thing. The next line of financial advisors, a lot of the stuff from what they did, from what we're doing, from what the next generation will do in 20, 30 years, a lot of this may be AI. A lot of it might be part of like the Diane Money app, right? There's a lot of things that will be even automated and simplified, but that's only going to create the need for such a strong financial advisor who's independent, looking at things holistically, because you still need that human connection.
100%.
You definitely need that. Like, what do you feel about that?
Oh, it starts with a conversation. You know, I know there's a big push for robo-advising. And I tell people, I don't love robo-advising. It's not that I don't love robo. I like that, you know, the Robin Hoods, the different methods out there where you have a phone, you can access investments. That being said, you still want to have a conversation, and that's what's most important.
Totally.
Is someone still has to push the buttons, right? And investments exist across, you get to hop on Google and you can Google any investments you want, right? That being said, how does that investment fit into your framework? And that starts with the conversation. I love that the supply demand, the technology, things are driving us into the next phase of planning, but having a relationship and conversing with individuals, that's the value. That's the intrinsic value. I remember that term from our former days.
Absolutely.
It's not us, hey, I can put you in ABC Mutual Fund. Like, you can go online and do that. The reason that you choose ABC Mutual Fund, though, is we had a conversation, identified goals, said, hey, by doing this thing at this time for this long is going to allow you to achieve your goal. ABC can get you there.
Right. It fits that future need. So stay tuned. We're going to go into some more great information with Kevin Finlon on the Retire As You Desire show. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. We have Kevin Finlon here, the newest member of the Retire As You Desire family. Super excited to have him and bringing 10 plus years of financial service wisdom to the Bloom Financial family. So Kevin, thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, it's all good. So I want to go into something. You brought this up in the last segment. We were talking about, your time. Is this the right thing to do? Or is it a great thing for you? A lot of this depends on behavior, your habits. On last week's TV show, I was talking about, in theory, right? These are just simple numbers. But if you spent $6,000 a year on like coffees and lunches and entertainment, it's a lot of money. You could put that money into a Roth IRA potentially, right? And then if you get a 7% return on that money over a 50-year window, so think about it, if you're 20, starting your career, or even have a job in college, you could put money into a Roth. That same amount of money invested over that 50-year window is going to be close to $2.8 million tax-free.
It's crazy.
I mean, that's the power of compounding.
Yep.
If you were to spend that money, you're going to be spending $300,000. So like there's a fine line between what's right, what's wrong, or what could we be doing to help get to these levels. So with all that being said, how do you help your clients plan? Like if I came to you and said, you know what, I'm a 60-year-old couple, my wife is 60 as well, like we're both 60, we've saved X amount of dollars. How do you go about planning for them besides asking them questions? Like how do you plan for their retirement or their future?
Great question. First thing I'd love to start off, I love the rule of 72. I love to tell people that.
Yeah.
I tell people, because when I was a young advisor, I would say, hey, the goal is 7%. People would say, well, where did that come? Is that one of those insurance tricks? You insurance agents? I said, I looked up the rule of 72, and it goes back to Greek philosophy,
Yeah.
but it was popularized by Albert Einstein. So I was like, yeah, it's one of those insurance tricks. Albert Einstein, the great insurance producer.
Yeah.
In any event, I tell people the goal is 7%. Why? 72 divided by 7. Money doubles every 10 years. Mr. Client, would you like your money to double every 10 years? Yeah. So when I sit down with retirees that have money saved, or when I have a lot of clients that haven't met the retirement, right? I tell them, we could talk about rates of return, but let's not focus on that. Let's talk more about what does retirement look like for you? So whether you're 60 and you're there, or you're 25, 22 coming out of college, or 19, I have a 19-year-old client, and starting out, what does it look like for you? Do you want to be done at 50? You want to be done at 55? You want at 60? Do you want to travel? And if you travel, what does that travel look like? Are you going to go to Europe twice a year? Or are you content, with heading down to Florida? Neither is right or wrong. It's not my life. It's your life. We have to plan around that. And then as they get talking, I say, okay, great. Now let me throw you a curveball. You have parents? Oh, yeah. Well, how old are mom and dad? Well, they're 88 and 85. Great. How's their health? Oh, well, mom's in great shape, but dad's had some issues. Oh, who's going to take care of them? Keeps me up. Would you like for us to incorporate an aspect of that in your plan so we don't have to worry about that? So you don't have to be a burden on your children. I never thought about that. It's our job to educate. We are educators. We've talked about my mentor, Tom, multiple times. And one of the first things he told me was being a financial advisor, we are handholders, we are educators, We are therapists.
Yep.
We are therapists.
I need to get a financial planning therapy degree.
I sometimes I feel like I'm not therapist, but I feel like I do a lot of that work. You have to be asking I don't want to say the right questions. There's not a wrong question, right? But you have to ask the questions at the right time to better understand the person, to build these things in. Some of these things people may not want to address, right?
True.
If you can go to Europe, or you could look at addressing like a long-term care situation, I'd rather go to Europe. That's going to be a lot of fun, right? Okay. But this is equally important. You have to make them smell the orange. Tom told me you have to make them smell that orange. You wave an orange in front of you. That smell. It smells like you have to make them feel it, right? I heard when we first started these sessions, you were talking about your experience with smoking.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I didn't grow up in a family of smokers. My grandparents didn't smoke, which is unheard of for that generation. So I can't really relate. But as I mentioned, my mom has diabetes, and that's a lot of people in my family have had diabetes, and it is a silent killer. You don't take care of it, it really can progress. You have to make people feel it. So when it comes to planning for a 60-year-old retirement, you got to ask the questions and then make them feel the pressure points and say, hey, we can make your retirement what you want to be. Both the things you want to do and some of the things you don't want to do. We got to incorporate both those. One of the last things I say, and he's going to love when he sees these. Tom always told me, my job is not to be good to you, it's to be good for you.
Wow, that's prolific.
And I tell people that all the time. I'm not here to be your friend and everything's fine, Bill. My job is here to make sure you're doing the things you need to do to be successful. But you define the success.
Yeah, you define the success. I mean, have you had to recently tell someone bad news or give them, maybe this isn't working out, or maybe you haven't saved enough to get to this point? I mean, I've had to have these conversations with people, Kevin, when they haven't saved enough and they were an introduction, and it's like that awkward.
Sure. So I've had, in the last couple of months, I've had 2 instances. One where I had to say goodbye to a client, and the other where it wasn't so much that I said, you haven't saved enough, but it was hey, life's full of choices. And I'm not upset with the choices you're making, but if you're going to choose that today, that's going to change the outcome for tomorrow.
Wow.
So the first example I'll give you was some older clients who I generally really liked. They were friendly enough, never let me all the way in. And I kept trying, and they were always holding back a little bit. And I had figured out that they didn't trust me. That's another time thing. They don't trust you. It's not a bad thing. They just don't trust you. Sometimes people just have a hard time giving up that control.
You can't work with everyone.
Correct.
You have to want to work with the right people.
Correct. And I finally told them, I said, hey, we can do this, but if we don't do this, we're not going to do anything, because I'm not going to sit here and try to put Band-Aids on an open wound. We need stitches. We need surgery. The Band-Aid's not going to solve this problem. And time is your most precious commodity. Did they suck up? Were they calling me every day? No. But I'm like, I remember telling my wife, why am I driving out here? What am I doing?
Wow.
I could talk to them for an hour and a half and then maybe do something, maybe not do it. And then we still have the same conversation. And in 6 months from now, I'm done. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. The second instance was one of my favorite clients, and they wanted to put a pool in. the infamous pool, right?
Yeah.
And I said, you can do that. We have the assets to do it because you've been saving. But I need to be very upfront with the two of you that if we do this, retirement at 60 is out, because the money that you would be using for health insurance premiums is being used for the pool. As long as you guys are okay with that commitment that, hey, we're going to have to work till at least 65, more likely 67, full retirement for Social Security benefit reasons, that's okay with me. Life is full of choices, but I'm going to hold you accountable to those choices.
That's a big thing. Just like going back to the eating out or the drinking or smoking or these daily habits or making a big decision like that. I was listening to a book and they talked about the wife wanted a pool and the husband's like, well, I can't retire early now because of it. So it was that same scenario. You spend the money, right? It's there to be enjoyed.
Absolutely.
There's such a balance between, should I do this now? Should I do this later? We have incredible clients. One of them, unfortunately, passed away about 2 months ago now, had cancer. Thank you. And then like another one, they found tumors and it was operable, but you don't know, especially when you're in your 50s or 60s. How do you find a balance with helping people like to live now versus spend now versus save for later? Like, how do you incorporate that? Because I'm finding that that's one of the things that's the hardest things to plan for.
So it's a great question. And I've been redefining that for myself as I've made this jump. To go back to the clients that put the pool in, they have 3 amazing children. One of their children has their grandparents now. The children are all in the area. And I said, hey, I support this. I want you to own the decision. You have 3 children in the area. You're putting this in. It's going to create memories. And I'm a big memory guy. We finally got across the pond and went to Europe for our honeymoon in 2022. Nice. Changed my life. I was like, why am I not doing this more? The world's a big place. That costs money, right? You have to sacrifice. So trying to cut back on the eating out. I love coffee. I've got a great coffee machine at home. It was a $70 one-time purchase.
Wow.
I just remake that coffee it's amazing.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to Starbucks.
Exactly.
You can just make it at home. Just with a little bit of planning, I can make it. I can bring it with me. I can make myself an iced coffee. Mind blown, right?
And you're saving a ton of money.
Exactly. So I can go to Europe. So I can drink my espresso in Italy because I loved that. Right? I loved that experience. That's why I was introduced to espresso. Life's full of choices and honoring those choices. Now, the second portion of your question was, how do you define it with clients? Early on, I tell people I'll be the Scrooge McGee. I'll be the guy you can have a picture on the dartboard and you can throw a picture of me because I'm going to make you do. I'm not going to be good to you. I'm going to be good for you. If you do the things that I want you now, will come a date. I'll say to you, hey, you're in good shape. Is there things you want to do with this money? What do you mean? Like, you've been saving. Do you want to purchase that pickup truck or the sports car?
There's a purpose for them.
There's a purpose. Like, it has to be enjoyed. And it's funny, clients that I've harassed, to do it the right way, they develop the habits. We talk about behavioral habits to where they get to a point where, no, I don't really need it. No, I don't really need it. It's almost like I have to please take some of this because you can't take it with you, you know?
Right.
Now but that leads to the next conversation of, hey, you can't take it with you. So how do you want to pass to the next generation? What does that look like to you, right? I tell every client, spend it. You can't take it with you. But if you don't, there's probably going to be something left over. Do you want to make a plan for that, right?
Right.
Developing the behavior early is what's key. And it's something that I'm realizing with my clients and with myself. I told you, we have a new baby girl. It's topsy-turvy when you have children. Having structure and organization is something I have to work on with myself. So if my dad watches this, he can say, Dad, you were right.
It's always funny dealing with the parents.
When they're right, and you never want to agree with them when you're younger, and then you get older. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, with our 2 and 5-year-olds, I'm seeing some of these things. That's some of the most precious time in life. And speaking of time, we're going to wrap up this segment and go into our last one. Talk about tax planning, financial planning, things that he loves, investment planning. So stay with us. We have one more segment left. Thank you for watching the Retire As You Desire show. Welcome back to the Retire As You Desire show. We have Kevin Finlon here, the newest member of the Bloom Financial family. How incredible. We've been sharing our story. We've been getting into the details, what you love doing, who you are, your family life, your wife, your daughter, your love for espresso. What's the next steps for you? Like, what are the next phases looking like? I know that you've brought, your incredible clients with you. You get to work with the right people. What's next?
Well, honestly, when I chose to come partner with you, and I view it as a partnership, which is
totally
phenomenal. I don't necessarily, you're not always right 100% of the time. I like having someone to bounce ideas off and, hey, this is good, or what if we did it this way? What makes me most excited is about, you've built this great brand, and I've told my clients that, Finlon Financial had a nice ring. That being said, when we first entered in our communication, I thought, you've built this wonderful brand. You built it from scratch, because you started from scratch over again when 15 years ago, roughly, right? 14 years ago?
I was 28.
Yeah.
So it was over 10 years ago now.
So when you started this brand, and I think you built it into something that I could never imagine, I'm excited to roll up my sleeves, boots on the ground, get and use that to my advantage and my client's advantage.
Totally.
And equal to that point, I'd like to ask you, what has been the most rewarding, or what have you enjoyed the most about creating this path? Because I have always thought of you as an entrepreneur, and a little bit more entrepreneurial than I am. Now that I'm seeing it, I'm like, oh, I really like this. So what have you, I was like, this is great. How come I never even thought about this? So what's been the best part of it for you?
Well, the best part of it was investing in myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was first and foremost, because when I started my company, similar to you, like, I hadn't met Jude yet. I hadn't met my wife. We had met almost to the day a year after I had started the company. So first year, completely on the struggle bus. It was really difficult because I literally lost all my clients, everyone. I had a 9-month and a 2-year waiting period before I could contact them again. So I remember this vividly, like doing my taxes that year. I was like, there was a $24,000 net profit, and I'm not complaining. It was just like a really difficult financial year. I was like starting over, but I always knew I could figure it out. I have that mindset. I have that mentality, and figuring it out translated into helping my clients.
Sure.
And that's the most important thing. And then from a pure enjoyment standpoint, I invested in some coaching that first year in 10 years ago. And that really helped. It really helped me focus on my free time, understand who I am as a person, and understand who are the right kind of clients, who are the people who I want to be a hero to. And I really stuck to that. You can't say yes to everything, but you don't always have to get paid for your services too. There's been so many times over the years where I've helped people or give them advice or just sat down with them just to help them and be a great human being. That's been some of the most rewarding things, because those are the people who are struggling. Those are the people who have had hard times. And by doing that, the more you give, the more you get. These are just the laws of the universe in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Deepak Chopra talks about this all the time. Like the 7 laws of the spirituality, and just like all these things. The more you give, the more you get. I was literally speaking with Melissa and Doug, the toy company.
Yeah.
I was talking to Melissa. They just sold their company for over $1 billion.
That's
And she was like very worried about people taking advantage of her and people, just asking her for things like, because she has all this money now. And it's like, okay, trying to get into the coffers, right? But you have to open yourself up to help people. When you do that and have like a detachment from that outcome, like we talked about in the first segment, that's where I saw growth. That's where I saw growth for my clients. And I had literally almost all of the tools to help plan out a retire as you desire lifestyle. And that's been the most fun part, is just taking someone through work to planning to execution, living the dream. But also I help them through the phases of retirement and try and eliminate the second one, which is that depression, that decline. People get divorced, people become unhealthy because they lose their sense of purpose. Trying to teach them that going into it has been a life changer too, just from like a satisfaction standpoint, because they're still enjoying their life and they're not falling into these proverbial traps that happen. They do happen. So it's just grown my lifestyle from a mindset standpoint, and that investment in myself has led to a great investment in others.
It's almost a circle. It's like a circle of life, right?
Circle of life.
As you said that, there's like 5 things that all crossed through my brain for the time. And when I said to my clients, I'm like, that's what makes me most excited about my future with this. I keep pointing like the road in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to roll up the sleeves and do it, or put on the kicks and start walking, right? Like I'm excited for the future, both for me on a personal level and then a professional level, and for my clients on a personal, professional level.
Totally.
As you're talking, I'm listening and hearing what you're saying. There's so many times I've said to clients, what's your plan in retirement? And they go, I'm not going to work. And I've tried, we really should make a plan, but I've almost felt like, well, how do I help them create that plan more than just give them a little bit of lip service? I mean, I've pointed something out that they didn't think about, but I'd like to take it a step further. And again, no, I'm not going to, come over to their house every day and, garden with them, but trying to be a resource for clients is so, so important. Another thing you mentioned that I think about, and I guess, again, this makes me excited for the future, is there's been a lot of people that I've worked with, and it's like, I want to help them, but you only have so much time, right? That being said, sitting down and just giving someone good advice, even if you don't get compensated for it.
Yeah, it's all worth it.
It's worth it, because the world works in a very mysterious way. Yeah. Being good ultimately gets you good. I'm a firm believer in that.
Totally.
I'm excited to be able to do that at the next level. So I'm excited for the future and what the future holds.
Yeah, the future is bright. You have to choose that, though.
Oh, 100%.
You have to choose that.
100%.
And having that mentality, and then going into situations where maybe a household is not futuristic thinking, or they may not be abundant, or they may be a little bit scarce because they watch the news a little bit too much or all day long, or just revolving around in the household. Like, there's a lot of different scenarios that we see as financial advisors, and doing it for 10 or 15 years or even 30, see a lot of interesting things.
See it all.
What's been, if you can point something out, like what's been like the most prolific thing that you've seen from a success standpoint? Like the people who have been most successful, what are some of the common traits that you could pull out from those individuals or households or couples?
Savers save, and spenders spend.
Hey.
And we've talked about behavior before. You need to figure out who's who, because there's an old joke, and I think it was on The Pursuit of Happiness. I think that was it. And someone's drowning, and a boat comes by and says, "Hey, can I save you?" No, God will save you.
Yeah.
Then boat leaves. Another boat comes. No, God will save me. Leaves. Person drowns. Gets to heaven, says, "God, what the heck? I thought you would save me.
Right.
I sent you 2 boats, idiot. What did you want from me?"
Yeah.
I think about things like that in my life that I've heard jokes or fables or whatever you want to classify that. And as it applies to save or save and spend or spend, we can only do so much as advisors. Speaking to your point of being prolific, finding clients that truly want to make a change and make themselves better. And better is a very loose term, right? Doesn't necessarily mean I have to save thousands of dollars every month and become a multimillionaire. There's some people that don't want to be multimillionaires. Sure. That's okay. But what are you doing to achieve the goals that you want to achieve in life? At a personal level, I hadn't been happy with my role for a very long time. And I finally said, enough is enough. the only one holding me back from happiness is me.
Hey.
And we need to make a decision that it's not going to be easy. This transition, I wish I could say it's smooth like butter, but no, transitions are never smooth like butter. We do everything in our power. But in order to get to that level of happiness that I seek, you got to be willing to take some risks.
Absolutely.
You're not going to name anybody in the history of the world that accomplished everything playing it safe.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day when we were on the phone.
Yeah.
Just having that risk appetite
Absolutely.
is also super key. But like Grant Cardone just said that. I was watching a video on him and just like trying to learn from people. You may love him, may hate him, may not know who he is, but like the people who actually go out and change the world, you have to prioritize your time and have a goal to go out and do something. So that's why I find it so valuable and rewarding to work with people who have goals.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, just start with one. You're watching the show, right?
Yeah, start simple. It doesn't have to be.
Right. You don't need to set a $500,000 Lamborghini as your goal. Like that's like kind of going way out there, especially if you haven't started on the entrepreneurial or the savings route. You see social media, you see all these posts. Those are things to ignore. That's all noise.
Totally agree.
It's totally noise. Like you can want those things and there's nothing wrong with that at all. The time that you spend working is meant to make money, give value, right? That's the biggest thing. And to reward yourself. And having goals is really one of the most enjoyment processes of life because you become a better person throughout this whole process. And I've seen you change through this whole entire process. So how do you feel about Kevin Finlon today? That's how we're going to wrap up the show.
How much time do we have, right? That's an open-ended question.
We could talk for days. There we go on that.
I look back to myself. I started when I was 24, so 20, and it's easy. I'm born in 90, so I've got it easy there. I started in 2014 when I was 24, so it makes it easy for me to remember. When I was 26 in 2016, I met my wife, and that was kind of the aha moment because I knew I was going to marry her when I met her.
Yeah.
Door opened, and I knew she was the one. She loves me. She loves me with or without money. All right, it's that important. That being said, as you're well aware, you can't pay the mortgage with love, and they definitely don't take it for diapers. I've tried. They don't accept love at Target.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I'm going to spend a year making the calls, seeing the people. And from there, I started making money. Actionable goals, a little bit at a time. I feel like the Kevin from 26 to 34 is night and day. I have something that I'm passionate about doing, and I enjoy doing. I can't wait to see what the future has to hold for me, for Bloom Financial, and for my clients.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap up tonight's show on this. Tune in every Friday night, 6 p.m. Central, for a new episode of the Retire As You Desire show. Welcome Kevin Finlon to the Bloom Financial family. Take care, everyone.